We have continuously talked on this channel at length about the many, and trust me, there are many national delusions that caused a lot of people to really go and vote for Brexit. And a lot of them were pinned on this nationalistic identity that Britain had an empire and somehow should be treated differently from Europe and the rest of the world, and that somehow it was special in some way, shape, or form. And luckily, especially starting now, we are probably going to see this bonfire of essential national delusions, because none of these, fantasies that the Brexiteers peddled at the referendum, and even in the 4 years since, during that then and obviously up until we left, will ever come to fruition. It will just not happen. And the fishing industry, one of the key things that was used in the referendum and those past 4 years as being this champion of what we could do, almost instantly, as soon as the deal was announced, fishermen in their droves who supported the deal came out and said, this isn't a good deal, this is awful for us, this isn't what we wanted. And one guy who said, we've done all this acrimony, that's broken up families and communities, all that for so little actually gained. And yeah, I completely agree. But this does leave Labour in a very good opportunity, because it can use this to try and help push for an alternative version of Britain. We have to see Brexit on the left not only as a profound moment of national tragedy, but also a moment of profound opportunity, because we know why people voted for Brexit. It wasn't because of the EU, it was because of the system and austerity that the Tories foisted upon this country. The status quo, meaning the Tories, are not fit to run this country and have no idea how to govern themselves out of a paper bag that they govern themselves into. So we're going to jump right into this, because I think this is a very good article, and I think this is something that Labour really need to take the lead on. So with that said, before we start, please do hit that like and share button, and of course down below there's links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. So into the article. So this comes from The Guardian, and the title is One Good Thing to Come Out of Brexit, a bonfire of national illusions. They've done it. The right wing of the Conservative Party has won a historic victory. The UK will be a sovereign third country with a limited trade deal with the EU. The UK and right-wing believers has been reconciled to its true history as a nation of offshore islanders. But they've also failed, and according to their own terms, Theresa May's red, white and blue Brexit is long dead, and a bad deal turned out to be no better than no deal. The EU will not be supplanted by a great new Europe where Britain's trade flows unimpeded. There are now frictions and barriers, not least in services, and any serious deregulatory move by the UK will be met with EU retaliation. In short, the UK has repatriated economic sovereignty and discovered that, far from allowing it to humble the EU, it has instead harmed itself. Leaders who supposedly stood up for the greatness of the renewed British nation have been revealed as champions of free trade who don't understand the modern economy, and as boastful flag-waving nationalists who don't even realise that the great British rulers once looked down upon such tinpot antics. As things now stand, Brexit is a pointless gesture, a politics of headlines in which sovereignty is performed by bleating, world-beating absurdities. Remarkably, 4 years on from the referendum, it is still a promise without a plan. We have broken out of one regime of international relationships into a holding position, worse than what came before, but with a possibility of at least redemption, damnation, or more likely, stagnation. We might end up with a new well, we might end up with a new plebiscite and parliamentary democracy, in which people take back control, not just from Brussels, but from Boris Johnson cronies Tories, and make the EU bureaucrats look like models of honest and transparent politics. Their system of mendacity, abated by a loyal press and unconstrained by Parliament, hardly inspires confidence. In fact, the legitimacy of the nation has been severely dented. Northern Ireland and Scotland are likely to leave the sinking British ship of state. And in their failure as champions of free trade, the Brexiteers have exactly repeated a British failure of the 1950s. An attempt to create a Western European-wide industrial free trade area that instead led to the UK seeking entry into the European Economic Community in 1961. Perhaps they might reach back even further into history, to the aspirations of an early generation of Tory press lords who pushed for empire free trade in the 1920s and 30s. These men, who had power without responsibility, in Baldwin's favourite phrase, also failed, as India and the domains remained protectionist. The imperialists and the press lords of that era wanted to create a trading bloc to rival the United States. Today's Brexiteers would prefer a deal with the Americans, handing control to Westminster rather than to Brussels. But the US, even after Trump, is still protectionist and deeply committed to exporting low food standards. There are some other options left for the Brexiteers. A strong expat tendency might suggest a Cayman Islands model, merging the UK with an archipelago of tax havens run from the Caribbean to create an even bigger retainer's paradise than the one we already have. At least an option. They might give up on the rest of the world and focus on national renewal, on quote levelling up. But we already have some inclination of how that is going. The creation of a new national business in reality contradicts for cronies and dodgy startups angling for subsidies, while Brexiteer businesses actually invest overseas. We should hardly be surprised that, quote, levelling up turns out to be a small pork barrel filled for financing better bypasses. Brexit has no realistically way to go, for Brexiteers at least. Does it offer possibilities, however, for Labour? For now, the answer is no, given that Labour's position is to be patriotic and prostrate. Indeed, Brexit is a potential reminder of the power of the new conservative ideas in shaping Labour's agenda. In the 1930s, Labour followed the Tories from being a party of free trade to one of imperial protection, and then to backing the ECC, and in the 1990s into globalisation and free market. That pattern is being repeated with Brexit, not merely by virtue of Labour voting in favour, but also accepting the propagandist Tory analysis of its causes. Keir Starmer is straining to appeal to the mythical Labour voter, constructed like a specimen of Stone Age man by Tory paleontologists of the Red War. Yet, the ideological maelstrom of Brexit gives Labour the opportunity to abandon the old nostrums and re-energise itself with a new national mission, a new history of its own. The left needs to disabuse itself of the cosy, outdated notion that Britain's ills are caused by imperial hangovers and consequently incompetent upper-class elites. Labour needs to wake up and offer an alternative future to contrast the Tory narrative. One that amounts to more than just better welfare and more administrative competence. Labour could start by being nostalgic, not for a Tory past, but a Labour one. One of greater equality, of common purpose, of strong trade unions, of rising wages, of meaningful work. Labour could embrace the idea of a refreshed democracy, of really taking back control, of an anti-elite politics rather than a reheated technocracy. Can't even say it. It could once again become the party that offers a national collective critique of the elite and its power, as it was from the 1930s into the 1970s, and propose a policy of national reconstruction and equality. Labour should be the party that speaks in realities, not in celebratory fantasies, and seeks to create a truthful democratic politics which is essential to any real programme for progressive change. One of the good things to come out of Brexit is the bonfire of national illusions, which is about to rage. It would be tragic if Labour were to put it all out for its own way. Brexit has forced some essential understanding of Britain's place in the world. It is no longer even potentially the top nation. It will not escape the orbit of Europe. It never did, even at the height of its power. It must imitate far more than it innovates. Understanding these truths is crucial to a genuine national reconstruction. We should aim to create a real, better country, not fake being the best. A policy for national reconstruction, for a foundational economy, for the support of better everyday life needs to be built on a double critique of the failed policies of the past 40 years and of the Brexit ultras seeking an even more disastrous turbo-Thatcherism. For Labour, this is the moment that represents a historic and political opportunity, a chance to rethink its own past and write a new history for the British nation. I generally, absolutely, 100% agree. And I keep on saying, Starmer needs to put out policies. He needs to start offering what this future can look like and what it can be. And we on the left, we need to start. If Starmer isn't going to do it, then we have to do it. And we have to push the Labour Party into propositioning this new proper lefty version of Britain, because quite thankfully, I don't even know if that's a word, but quite obviously, no one in their right mind wants turbo-Thatcherism, because that is another thing that Brexit and this current government is going to use. It is going to use, at some point, some MP will use, it is the will of the people, and try to go for some sort of very mass regulation. Something suspects it could be workers' rights, because we know in Britannia Unchained, a lot of those sitting MPs on the front benches, especially in Boris's cabinet, who are responsible for writing that book, do not like workers' rights one bit. And of course, as I've said, we are going to have a huge fight at some point against probably this government when it tries to bringing its swathe of deregulations. And here's the thing, Labour should not go for it. It needs to offer a more better future. And it can do so. It just needs to be brave and go with it. So, with that said, you have to... I don't know what's going on with me today, but yeah. As always, please do hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And thank you very much to the people who do support me that way. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.